Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Money Talks. This is going to be a 5-minute quick take on Greg, so let's get started. This episode is going to focus on free cash flow, so that is the cash from operating activities, so what it costs to make a sausage roll minus capital expenditure, so dividends, financing, all the rest of it. The first thing I want to talk about is what their share price was in 2011. They were priced at 500p per share and they had 1,570 stores. Their free cash flow was 15 million, that's 15p per share. Their share price was in 2019 before COVID, that's 8 years later from 2011. Their share price was 1,275p, so their share price in 8 years only increased 255%. 480 new stores, however, were built. So they had roughly 25% more stores. That's 60 stores per year. That's all they seem to be able to build is 60 stores per year. Free cash flow was up to 135 million, however, up 900% from 2011. So their share price was up 255% and their cash was up 900%. Operating profit increased with number of stores 7%, so they were making 7% on what they were spending. Their free cash flow per share was £1.32, up 880%. Okay, so their share price was up 255%, their free cash flow per share was up 880%. Next, 2020, COVID, 50 stores shut and none were added, and so they had 2,050 stores total from in 2020. However, they didn't add any debt over the entire COVID period and they only ended up losing 7 million in cash, cut to 2021. Their share price in 2021 was 2,409, up 188%. They had 181 extra stores in 1 year and free cash flow is up 235 million, up 174% from 2019. Now, they do say in their report that they only had 2,050 stores in 2020, so they literally did build 181 stores in 1 year. That means their ability to expand has increased, and their operating profit increased to 10% from 7% in 1 year, the biggest growth in operating profit. That means they're building far more stores than ever, and the more stores they build, the bigger their operating profit grows, rather than what you'd expect to see is building more stores would lead to a larger capital expenditure. They're actually spending less per store and building more stores. Operating profits increasing from 6% to 7% sales per store. So this is going over the same thing on this slide. Free cash flow versus market cap. Free cash flow is at 235 million per share, and so per share it's £2.29, and their shares are at £24.14p. Their market cap over free cash flow then, now that we're in 2021, is 10. Even though their PE says 20, I believe that's because they're averaging over several years. Their ambitious target for turnover over the next 5 years is taking it from 1.2 billion in revenue to 2.4 billion in revenue. Now, we don't care too much about what revenue is, we just care about free cash flow. However, it's likely that their capital expenditure will not increase at the same rate as revenue, so they'll be getting more cash at the end of this period. Therefore, their free cash flow is likely to do more than double if they hit these ambitious targets. Now, can they hit these ambitious targets? They've done a map of how many retail parks are in, roadside locations, rail and airports, London Underground, petrol forecourts, industrial estates, inside supermarkets, universities and hospitals in central London. They've left out on this where they are in retail locations. However, so there's in 600 locations here, and they can show you that there's far more opportunity to go into them than they're currently hitting. So yes, they can build far more stores, but that's not all they're going to do. If you look back at their coming back stronger, they are aiming to sell more via Deliveroo and Just Eat, sell more evening food and appeal to more customers that way. They are already doing brilliant work trying to get customers in for breakfast. Capital expenditure increasing from 58 million to 170 million, so they're going to be building far more stores and they're going to be expanding in a lot of other ways, but this is going to have a hit on next year's capital expenditure, so they're definitely going up from 58 million to 170 million in capital expenditure, so you can expect that to come out of free cash flow over the next 5 years. The next thing, inflation will hurt free cash flow. They are going to lose about 6%. The capital expenditure is going to go, the operating cost is going to go up 6%, which will hurt their free cash flow. Free cash flow in 2020, so that will be approximately 235 million. I do believe that they'll hit that target again. However, that will be minus 6% inflation and minus 120 million capital expenditure. The capital expenditure will now be 170 million, up from 58 million. So 1 year expectations, I expect the shop building to be at 100 to 150 per year. They are expecting to build 600 shops over the next 5 years. Home delivery growth means, they want to get their stores, I think, to 2,500. Anyway, home delivery growth means sales growth in 2020, but the same amount of infrastructure. Capital expenditure, we know it's going to increase, and so that we expect to see the free cash flow get hurt in the next 5 years, in the next year. But we do expect them to hit their ambitious goal of growing revenue. So the recommendation that I have is, because there's going to be lower free cash flow and rising capital expenditure over the next year, it probably means that there's going to be better chances to buy over the next year. However, considering that they have cash available to hit this growth, they won't have to borrow money. It means that the point at which they have doubled their revenue and their capital expenditure, they can stop spending, building new stores and rolling out developments. It means that their free cash flow will likely double very quickly at the end of the 5 year period and could potentially triple due to inflation. So I do think they're a good buy now, but I do think there will be opportunities to get it at a lower price in the future. However, I definitely think their free cash flow is going to be going up over 5 years' time. Thank you very much. Goodbye.